The stars shone quietly in the Andorian sector. For 3,000 years, peace had ruled this part of the galaxy. 12 different alien species lived together without war, without fighting, without the need for weapons or armies. They solved their problems with words, not violence. Commander Zara Veltar stood in the great council chamber of Satanitas. The floating city moved slowly around the peaceful world of Pacifica Prime. Through the wide windows, she could see the blue and green planet below. No wars had ever been fought there. No blood had ever been spilled in anger. Zara belonged to the Altarian Republic. Her people were tall and thin, with silver skin that sparkled in the light. They had been peaceful for so long that they had almost forgotten what war looked like. Their ships carried no weapons. Their soldiers were really just police officers who helped settle small arguments. Today, Zara was meeting with Ambassador Kethmer from the Vorthok Empire. The Vorthok were made of living crystal. They spoke in musical tones that sounded like wind chimes. Kethmer's body caught the light and threw rainbows across the room as he moved. "The shipping lanes are busy this month," Kethmer said. His voice rang like a bell. "The Hive Collective wants to use Route 7 Alpha, but the Madani Federation says they have first claim to it." Zara nodded. This was the kind of problem the Galactic Harmony Council dealt with every day. Small disputes about trade routes, mining rights, or cultural exchanges. Nothing that couldn't be solved with a few hours of polite discussion. "What do you think we should do?" she asked. "Split the route," Kethmer suggested. "Half the time for the Hive, half for the Madani. Everyone wins." The Hive Collective were insect-like creatures who thought as one big family. They were good at moving cargo quickly, but sometimes forgot to ask permission first. The Madani were fish people who lived in water-filled ships. They were very careful about following rules, but moved slowly. Zara was about to agree when the warning alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the council chamber. The peaceful hum of conversation stopped. Everyone looked around. In confusion, a young officer ran into the room. His face was pale with fear. "Commander Viltar, something big is coming. Our sensors picked it up at the edge of the system." Zara felt her heart skip. In 3,000 years, nothing dangerous had ever approached their space. "What kind of something?" "A ship, ma'am, but not like any ship in our records. It's huge, really huge, and it's not responding to our calls." The council members gathered around the main display screen. The image showed a massive vessel moving through space toward them. It was dark gray, almost black. Sharp edges stuck out all over it like the teeth of some giant beast. Strange towers and spikes covered its surface. "By the 7 moons," whispered Kethmer. "What is that thing?" None of them had ever seen anything like it. Their own ships were smooth and curved, built for beauty and comfort. This ship looked like it was built for only one purpose: fighting. Zara tried to stay calm. "Have we tried all the standard greeting codes?" "Yes, ma'am. Mathematical sequences, friendship signals, trade offers. Nothing. It just keeps coming." Far out in space, the human battleship U.S. Retribution moved through the darkness. Its hull was scarred from a dozen different battles back in Earth's solar system. Weapon ports lined its sides like sleeping eyes. Inside, 800 crew members worked at their stations. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, looking at the alien ships on his screen. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had fought in 3 wars back on Earth. He knew what enemy ships looked like, and these didn't look like enemies, but they didn't look like friends either. "What do you think, Rodriguez?" he asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez studied the scanner readings. She was young, but smart, one of the best tactical minds in Earth's space fleet. "They're not military ships, sir. No heavy weapons that I can see, mostly civilian designs." "Could be a trick," said Commander Sam Parker from his engineering station. Sam was older, with steady hands and a careful mind. Make us think they're harmless, then surprise us. Morrison nodded. Earth had sent the Retribution to explore and make contact with alien life. But Earth had also been preparing for war among the stars for 50 years. Every movie, every book, every story told humans that aliens would probably be hostile. The ship's weapons were ready. The crew was trained for battle. Try hailing them again, Morrison ordered. The communications officer sent out radio signals on every frequency they knew. But there was no answer from the alien ships. Back on Serenitas, panic was starting to spread. The unknown ship was getting closer. Its weapons were clearly visible now. Energy readings showed power levels that scared the peaceful aliens. Should we evacuate the city? Asked one of the council members. Zara shook her head. Not yet. Maybe. They're just lost. Maybe they need help. But even as she said it, she didn't believe it. The dark ship looked too purposeful, too ready for trouble. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Harmony Council faced something they had never prepared for. War was coming to their peaceful galaxy, and they had no idea how to stop it. Captain Lisa Chen commanded the diplomatic vessel Peaceful Dawn. Her ship was small and white, built for making friends with new species. It had no weapons, only communication equipment and gifts from the 12-member worlds of the Council. Lisa was human-looking, but not human. She belonged to a species called the Tyranni, who had joined the galactic community 800 years ago. They were known for being good at talking to different kinds of aliens. Lisa spoke 7 alien languages and understood 12 more. Take us toward the unknown ship, she told her pilot. Nice and slow. Send the friendship codes again. The Peaceful Dawn moved carefully through space. Its hull was painted with symbols of peace from all 12 species. Rainbow colors swirled across its surface. Anyone looking at it would know it. Came in friendship. On the bridge, Lisa's crew worked at their stations. They were all experienced diplomats. They had met new species before, though none as mysterious as this one. Still no response to our signals, reported her communications officer. But they're definitely scanning us. Lisa nodded. That was normal. New species always wanted to study each other. Let them look. Show them we have nothing to hide. She didn't know that aboard the human battleship, those scans looked very different. Unknown vessel approaching. Lieutenant Rodriguez called out. Distance 2,000 kilometers and closing. Captain Morrison studied the alien ship on his screen. It was much smaller than the Retribution, but that didn't mean it was harmless. Small ships could carry big weapons. What are those energy beams hitting us? Some kind of scanning system, sir, reported the sensor operator. Very powerful. They're looking at everything, our hull, our weapons, our engine core. Morrison's jaw tightened. In every war he had fought, enemy ships scanned their targets before attacking. It was standard military procedure. Learn your enemy's weaknesses, then strike. Could be weapons locks, Rodriguez said quietly. The energy signature is consistent with targeting systems. Commander Parker looked worried. Sir, those scans are getting stronger. If they're preparing to attack. Morrison had seconds to make a decision. His orders were to protect his ship and crew at all costs. The alien vessel was clearly studying his weapons and defenses. In his experience, that meant only one thing. Weapons hot, he ordered. Fire warning shots across their bow. Let them know we're not helpless. The Retribution's plasma cannons came alive. Blue energy built up in the weapon ports. The guns had been designed to fight other human warships. They were powerful enough to crack asteroids in half. On the Peaceful Dawn, alarms suddenly started screaming. Energy spike from the large vessel. The sensor operator yelled. They're charging weapons. Lisa felt her heart sink. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. Send the emergency peace codes. All frequencies. But it was too late. The Retribution fired. 2 massive plasma bolts shot across space, passing just in front of the peaceful dawn. They were meant as warning shots, but the human weapons were far more powerful than anything the aliens had ever seen. The energy from the plasma bolts washed over the small diplomatic ship. The peaceful dawn had no shields, no armor. It was built for talking, not fighting. The electromagnetic pulse from the near misses fried its delicate systems. We're hit. Someone screamed. Engine failure. Life support failing. Lisa grabbed her command chair as the ship shook apart around her. Sparks flew from control panels. The lights went out. Emergency power flickered on, casting everything in red light. Abandon ship, she ordered. All hands to the escape pods. The crew ran through the dark corridors as their ship died around them. Some made it to the pods, some didn't. Lisa was the last to leave, making sure everyone else was safe first. The peaceful dawn tumbled toward Pacifica Prime, trailing fire and debris. Most of the crew escaped, but Captain Chen's pod was damaged. She died when it crashed into the planet's upper atmosphere, on Satanitas. The Council watched in horror as the diplomatic ship burned up in the sky above Pacifica Prime. Commander Veltar felt something she had never felt before. Rage. They killed her, she whispered. They killed Lisa Chen. The other council members were in shock. Violence like this hadn't happened in their space for 3,000 years. They had forgotten what war looked like, but they were remembering fast. It was an attack, said Ambassador Kathmar. His crystal body was glowing angry red. Unprovoked murder. We must respond, said General Morrican of the Drakmari. His people were the closest thing to warriors the council had, though they hadn't fought a real war in centuries. This cannot go unanswered. Veltar stood up slowly. Her silver skin had turned dark with emotion. Send word to all member worlds. Tell them we are at war. The other species began calling their fleets. The Altarians had 100 ships. The Vorthok had 200. The Hive Collective could field 300 vessels. Altogether, the 12 species could gather over 2,000 ships. But none of them were really warships. They were exploration vessels, cargo haulers, and science ships with light weapons added on. They were peaceful ships, built by peaceful people, who were about to learn what war meant. Aboard the Retribution, Captain Morrison watched the alien fleet gathering on his sensors. He felt sick inside. He had not meant to kill anyone. The plasma cannons were only supposed to be warning shots. Sir, Rodriguez said quietly, we're picking up transmissions from the alien fleet. Our computers are translating them. What do they say? They're calling for war, sir. They think we attacked them on purpose. Morrison closed his eyes. This was exactly what Earth's leaders had feared. First contact gone wrong. A peaceful gesture turned into violence. Now humanity faced an entire galaxy of angry aliens. How many ships are they gathering? He asked. 2,000 and counting, sir. Maybe more. Morrison looked at his own small fleet. 6 human ships against 2,000 alien vessels. The odds were impossible, but surrender was not an option. Earth was depending on them. Send a message to Admiral Sullivan, he ordered. Tell her, we need help, and we need it fast. The peace is over. War had come to the galaxy, born from a terrible misunderstanding that neither side could take back. Admiral Kate Sullivan arrived from Earth 3 days later. Her flagship, the UES Defiance, led a small fleet of 6 human warships through the jump point. Kate was older than Morrison, with gray streaks in her brown hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She had fought in the corporate wars back in Earth's solar system. She knew what it meant to be outnumbered and outgunned, but she had never faced odds like this before. 2,000 alien ships, she said, reading the reports. And more coming, every hour. Captain Morrison stood in the briefing room of the Defiance. His face was tired and worn. The guilt of starting this war was eating at him. They're gathering at the edge of the system, waiting for something. Waiting for more ships, said Commander Ryan Walsh. He commanded the destroyer, U.S. Hunter, the fastest ship in the human fleet. My scouts report new vessels arriving from 12 different worlds. Sullivan studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was massive, but it looked wrong somehow. The ships were spread out in neat formations, like they were on parade, instead of preparing for battle. Have they tried to attack yet? She asked. No, Morrison replied. They're just watching us, waiting. Sullivan nodded. She had seen this before. Inexperienced commanders often hesitated before their first real battle. These aliens had been peaceful for 3,000 years. They probably didn't know how to start a war. We can't fight them all at once, she said. We need to be smart about this. Chief Nicole Foster was the best technical officer in the human fleet. She had been studying the alien ships for days, learning their weaknesses. Their formation is too perfect, she reported. They're flying like they're in a parade, not a battle. All their ships are moving in the same patterns. That's good for us, Sullivan said. Predictable enemies are easy to beat. What else? Their weapons are light, Foster continued. Designed for police work, not war. And they're not jamming our communications. I don't think they know how. Sullivan smiled for the first time since arriving. These aliens might have more ships, but they didn't know how to use them. Humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They had learned every dirty trick, every clever tactic. We're going to teach them what real war looks like, she announced. The first human attack came at dawn, ship time. Commander Walsh led 3 destroyers in a high-speed run at the alien fleet's left wing. The human ships came in fast and low, using the gravity of a nearby moon to hide their approach. The aliens were caught completely off guard. Their sensors were watching the main human fleet, not looking for sneaky attacks from unexpected directions. Walsh's ships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons and missile launchers lit up the darkness. The alien ships tried to respond, but their light weapons could barely scratch human armor. Direct hit on the lead alien vessel, reported Walsh's gunner. She's breaking apart. 3 alien ships were destroyed in the first 30 seconds. The rest tried to turn and fight, but the human destroyers were already racing away. By the time the alien reinforcements arrived, Walsh's ships were gone. Commander Veltar watched the attack from her flagship, the Harmony's Hope. She had never seen ships move so fast or strike so hard. 3 of her people were dead, and the human ships had disappeared like ghosts. How did they do that? Asked her tactical officer, a young Eltarian named Colmat. They used the moon's gravity, Veltar realized. We weren't watching that sector. Should we chase them? With what? They're twice as fast as our fastest ships. The humans struck again 6 hours later, this time hitting a supply convoy bringing food and fuel to the alien fleet. Captain Morrison led 2 cruisers in a quick raid that destroyed 5 cargo ships and disappeared before help could arrive. The alien commanders met to discuss what was happening. They had never faced an enemy who refused to fight fair. In their experience, battles were formal affairs with rules and proper procedures. They attack and run away, complained Admiral Cythera of the Void Wanderers. Where is their honor? Honor doesn't matter if you're dead, said General Dexiran of the Drakmar. His people were the most warlike of the 12 species, but even they fought with honor and courage. Not hit-and-run tactics. Commander Veltar studied the tactical reports. The humans were using strategies she had never seen before. They attacked weak points, avoided strong ones, and never stayed in one place long enough to be caught. We need to adapt, she said. Learn their methods. But adaptation took time, and the humans weren't giving them any. Over the next week, human ships struck at convoy routes, supply bases, and isolated patrol groups. They never attacked the main alien fleet directly, but they were slowly bleeding it to death. The aliens tried to copy human tactics, but they weren't good at it. Their ships were designed for cooperation, not independent action. When they tried to split up and hunt the humans, they lost their coordination advantage. Worse, the 12 species had different fighting styles that didn't work well together. The Hive Collective moved in perfect formation, but slowly. The were careful and methodical. The crystalline Vorthok communicated through music that other species couldn't understand quickly enough. Chief Foster discovered something else that gave humans an advantage. Their computer systems are too smart, she reported to Admiral Sullivan. Everything is automated. They don't have manual overrides like we do. What does that mean for us? I can jam their systems, Foster said with a grin. Make their own computers work against them. The next human attack was different. Instead of hit-and-run tactics, Admiral Sullivan led her entire fleet straight at the alien formation. It looked like a suicide charge, 6 ships against 2,000. But as the human ships closed in, Foster activated her jamming systems. Radio waves flooded space, confusing the alien computer networks. Ships that were supposed to fire at the humans started targeting each other instead. The perfect alien formation collapsed into chaos. Now, Sullivan ordered. The human ships dove into the confused mass of alien vessels. At close range, human weapons were devastating. Ship after ship exploded as the humans carved their way through the fleet. Commander Veltar tried to restore order, but her communications were jammed. She could see her ships firing at each other, could see the human vessels destroying everything in their path. For the first time in 3,000 years, the aliens were learning what real war looked like. By the time Foster shut off the jamming, 50 alien ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet escaped with only minor damage. The aliens had learned their first lesson about fighting humans. Never underestimate an enemy who has been fighting wars for their entire history. 3 weeks into the war, everything was going wrong for the aliens. They had lost over 300 ships to human attacks. Worse, some of the member species were starting to question whether the fight was worth it. Ambassador Kethmer met with Commander Veltar in secret aboard the Harmony's Hope. His crystal body was dull with worry, no longer throwing rainbows in the light. My people are scared, he said. We haven't lost this many ships in 1,000 years. Some are asking why we don't just leave human space alone. Veltar felt anger burning in her chest. Because they murdered Lisa Chen. Because they attacked us first. Did they? Kethmer asked quietly. The survivors from the Peaceful Dawn say the humans fired warning shots. Maybe it was an accident. It doesn't matter now, Veltar replied. We're at war. But it did matter. Doubt was spreading through the alien fleet like a disease. The Madani were talking about returning to their ocean worlds. The peaceful Etherians wanted to negotiate. Even some of the proud Drakmari were questioning the wisdom of fighting an enemy they couldn't catch. Veltar knew she had to do something to unite her people. She called a meeting of the most committed leaders from each species. General Vec came from the Drakmari warships. Admiral Cythera represented the nomadic Void Wanderers. Commander Brixtel spoke for the Insectoid Hive Collective. We need to change our strategy, she told them. The humans are too fast, too unpredictable. We can't fight them the old way. What do you suggest? Asked Thexeron. We learn from them, use their own tactics against them. They began mixing crews from different species, hoping to combine their strengths. Drakmari aggression with Vorthok precision. Hive collective coordination with Void Wanderer's speed. It was a good idea, but it took time to work properly. The humans kept attacking while the aliens tried to adapt. Captain Morrison felt sick every time he ordered his weapons to fire. These weren't evil invaders, like in Earth's old movies. They were just people trying to defend their homes. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Hayes led boarding parties onto damaged alien ships. He was a tough Marine with scars from a dozen battles, but what he found troubled him. The alien crew members weren't soldiers, they were teachers, artists, and scientists who had volunteered to fight only after the war began. "This is wrong, sir," he told Morrison after one mission. "Half these people don't even know how to use their weapons properly." Morrison knew Hayes was right, but orders were orders. "They're still shooting at us, Colonel, with training weapons and cargo haulers." "Sir, I boarded a ship yesterday that was commanded by a poetry professor. She'd never been in a fight in her life. Dr. Alina Brooks was the Retribution's expert on alien biology and culture. She had been studying captured alien equipment and prisoners. What she discovered changed everything. Captain," she said, bursting into Morrison's ready room, "you need to see this." She spread data tablets across his desk. Brain scans, genetic analyses, psychological profiles. "I've been studying the alien prisoners. Their brains are different from ours." "Different how?" "They've evolved beyond competitive aggression. Look at these scans. The parts of their brains that handle violence and territorial behavior are almost inactive. They literally can't think like predators anymore." Morrison studied the data. "What does that mean?" "It means they're not natural warriors, sir. Their 3,000 years of peace weren't just political, they were biological. These species evolved past the need for war, but they're still fighting us. Because they have to, not because they want to. It's like forcing a dolphin to hunt. On land, they can try, but they're not built for it." Morrison felt the weight of this knowledge. Humans had accidentally started a war with species that were naturally peaceful. No wonder the aliens were losing. They were fighting against their own nature. Meanwhile, Admiral Sullivan was planning her biggest attack yet. The alien fleet had regrouped near Pacifica Prime, trying to protect their most important world. Sullivan saw an opportunity to end the war with one massive strike. "We hit them with everything," she told her captains. "Full fleet assault on their main formation. They're too bunched up to use their numbers effectively." But Commander Veltar had been learning too. She had studied every human attack, looking for patterns. She noticed that humans always tried to divide their enemies, to fight smaller groups. "Instead of the whole fleet, they'll try to split us apart," she told her commanders. "This time, we stay together no matter what." The battle began at dawn, above Pacifica Prime. The 6 human ships charged straight at the alien fleet's center, just as Sullivan had planned. But this time, the aliens were ready. Instead of panicking or spreading out, they closed ranks. 2,000 ships formed a tight sphere around the humans, trapping them in a cage of firepower. For the first time in the war, human ships found themselves outnumbered and surrounded with no escape route. "We're taking heavy fire," reported Commander Walsh from the Hunter. His ship's armor was cracking under the constant bombardment. "Admiral," Sullivan realized her mistake, too late. She had underestimated the aliens' ability to learn. Now her entire fleet was trapped in the middle of enemy space. "All ships, emergency scatter," she ordered. "Break formation and run." But there was nowhere to run. Alien ships filled every direction. The humans found themselves fighting for their lives for the first time since the war began. The USS Defiance shuddered under enemy fire. Plasma conduits exploded on the bridge. The main engines were failing. Sullivan knew her flagship was dying. "Captain Morrison," she called over the radio, "get your people out of here. Someone has to survive to warn Earth." Morrison's face appeared on her screen. "We're not leaving you behind, Admiral." "That's an order, Captain. Go." But Morrison had an idea. He remembered Dr. Brooks' research about alien psychology. Maybe there was another way to end this fight. "Admiral, what if we surrender?" Sullivan looked at him like he was crazy. "Surrender? Not really surrender. But these aliens are natural peacemakers. What if we offered to negotiate?" It was a desperate plan, but they were out of options. Morrison opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Alien commanders, this is Captain Morrison of the human fleet. We request a ceasefire to discuss." "Terms?" Commander Veltar was surprised. In all her studies of human tactics, she had never seen them ask for peace. Maybe they weren't as aggressive as she thought. "What terms?" she asked. Morrison took a deep breath. This was the most important conversation of his life. Terms that end this war before more good people die on both sides. The alien ships stopped firing. For the first time in weeks, space was quiet. Commander Veltar stared at the human fleet trapped in the middle of her formation. Part of her wanted to finish them off, to end the war with complete victory. But the humans had asked for peace talks. Her people were natural diplomats. Even after all the fighting, the idea of negotiation appealed to her. "Very well, Captain Morrison," she said. "But you will come aboard my ship alone. No weapons, no tricks." Morrison knew it could be a trap, but he had no choice. His fleet was surrounded and damaged. Admiral Sullivan's ship was barely flying. If talking could save lives, he had to try. An hour later, Morrison stepped aboard the Harmony's Hope. The alien ship was beautiful inside, with curved walls that glowed with soft light. Everything was designed for comfort and peace, not war. Commander Veltar met him in the main conference room. She was tall and graceful, with silver skin that seemed to glow from within. Her large eyes held both anger and sadness. "So," she said, "the human who started this war wants to talk." Morrison felt the weight of her words. "I never wanted a war. The attack on your diplomatic ship was a mistake. A mistake that killed Lisa Chen. Yes, and I'm sorry for that. But how many more people have to die before we realize this whole war is one big misunderstanding?" Veltar studied his face. She had expected a monster, but Morrison looked tired and sad. He didn't seem like the kind of person who would murder diplomats for fun. "Explain this misunderstanding," she said. Morrison took a breath. "My people have been alone for thousands of years. We've fought wars against each other, but we've never met other intelligent species before. When we saw your ships, we were scared. When you scanned us, we thought you were preparing to attack, so you shot first. Yes, it was wrong, but we were." Afraid Veltar felt some of her anger fading. Fear she could understand. All species felt fear, but what happened next confused her. "Why didn't you surrender when you saw how many ships we had?" she asked. Any reasonable person would have given up. Morrison almost smiled. "Because humans aren't reasonable when we're cornered. We fight harder when the odds are against us." "That makes no sense." "It doesn't have to make sense. It's just who we are." Dr. Brooks had given Morrison a full report on alien psychology before the meeting. He knew these species had evolved beyond competitive aggression. They literally could not understand why someone would fight a hopeless battle. "Commander," he said carefully, "may I ask you something? In your 3,000 years of peace, did you ever wonder why no dangerous species appeared to threaten you?" Veltar frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if peace was only possible because there was no one around who was truly dangerous? What if you needed someone like us to keep the real threats away? You're saying humans are necessary." Morrison nodded. "Think about it. You have 12 species living in harmony. That's wonderful. But what happens when something really dangerous shows up? Something that doesn't want to negotiate or compromise?" Veltar was quiet for a long moment. The idea that violence might sometimes be necessary was alien to her, but she couldn't deny that her people had been helpless against human tactics. "What are you proposing?" she asked. "A partnership. We stop fighting each other and start working together. You keep the peace through diplomacy and trade. We handle the threats that can't be reasoned with. And if we refuse..." Morrison's voice became very serious. "Then this war continues until one of us is destroyed. My people won't surrender, and yours can't win. More ships will die. More friends will be lost." He paused, then said something that shocked her. "But if we do keep fighting, humans will win eventually. How can you be sure?" Morrison activated a small device Dr. Brooks had given him. A holographic display showed detailed tactical analyses of every battle in the war. "We've been studying your fleets for weeks," he said. "Your ships, your tactics, your psychology. We know exactly how to defeat you." The display showed attack patterns that would devastate the alien fleet, weak points in their formations, psychological tactics that would break their morale, technical vulnerabilities that human engineers had discovered. "We could have used these strategies already," Morrison continued. "We could have destroyed your entire fleet a week ago." Veltar stared at the tactical data in horror. The humans really could have wiped out her people completely. "Then, why didn't you?" "Because we don't want to be monsters. We want to be protectors." The conference room was silent for a long time. Veltar realized that everything had changed. Humans weren't just another species to be negotiated with. They were apex predators who had chosen mercy over victory. "What exactly do you want from us?" she asked. "Recognition that humans are the galaxy's military force. When something threatens the peace, you call us, we handle it, and in return, we protect your trade routes, your colonies, your way of life. We become the sword and shield of galactic civilization." Veltar thought about Lisa Chen, the gentle diplomat who had died trying to make friends with humans. She thought about the poetry professor who had volunteered to fight in a war she didn't understand. She thought about 3,000 years of peace that had made her people soft and helpless. Maybe Morrison was right. Maybe peace required strength to maintain it. "I'll need to discuss this with the other commanders," she said. "Of course. But, while you're discussing, remember this. We're having this conversation because humans chose to talk instead of fight. We could have kept going until you were all dead. Instead, we're offering you a chance to keep your peaceful galaxy protected by people who understand war." 3 hours later, the alien commanders had made their decision. The war was over. 6 months passed. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, humanity's first permanent deep space station. It orbited Pacifica Prime, a symbol of the new partnership between humans and aliens. The galaxy was still peaceful, but it was a different kind of peace now. Human patrol ships guarded the trade routes. Human marines protected alien colonies from pirates and raiders. Human engineers helped design better defenses for important worlds. Dr. Brooks ran a new research institute where aliens studied human nature, trying to understand how a species could be both violent and protective. She had become something of a celebrity among alien scientists who were fascinated by human psychology. "The irony is perfect," she told Morrison during one of their regular meetings. "They spent 3,000 years evolving past the need for violence, but they needed violent protectors to keep their peaceful society safe." Morrison nodded, looking out at the stars. Earth had sent more ships and more people. Humanity was spreading across the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as guardians. "Do you think we did the right thing?" he asked. "We prevented a genocide," Brooks replied. "Ours or theirs, it doesn't matter. We found a third option." Commander Veltar visited the station regularly. She and Morrison had become something like friends, though they still disagreed about many things. She represented the alien governments in their dealings with humanity. "Your people are adapting well," she told Morrison during her latest visit. "The trade routes have never been safer. Any regrets about the partnership?" Veltar was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Lisa's ship hadn't been damaged. If we had completed first contact peacefully, we probably would have ended up in the same place," Morrison said. "Maybe it would have taken longer, but eventually you would have realized you needed protectors, and we would have realized we needed something worth protecting." Through the station's windows, they could see ships from a dozen different species moving through space in harmony. Human warships escorted alien freighters. Mixed crews worked together on exploration missions. The galaxy was still peaceful, but now that peace had teeth. Morrison thought about Earth's old movies, where aliens were always invaders to be defeated. Reality had turned out very differently. Humans had become the aliens they had always feared, the dangerous species that arrived to change everything. But instead of conquest, they had brought protection. Instead of destruction, they had brought security. The universe was still peaceful, but now it was a peace that could defend itself. And somewhere in the deep dark between the stars, other dangerous things stirred and moved. When they came looking for easy prey, they would find something they didn't expect, a peaceful galaxy, protected by the most dangerous predators in the universe. Humans had come to the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians, and the galaxy was safer for it.